All right, welcome everyone. On behalf of the Atlanta Bar, thank you each for joining us today. To those of you that may not know me, my name is Chris Leitner. I am a partner with Alston & Bird, and I serve on the executive committee of the Atlanta Bar Association. To those who do know me, it's good to see each of you again, at least virtually, and hopefully we'll be back in person shortly to do the next series such as this. On that point, we're here today as part of the Atlanta Bar's ongoing Access the Bar series. The general goal with this series is to improve access to our membership to what's going on with the bar and our partnerships. This month, we're focusing on the Atlanta Bar's strong history of partnerships with pro bono organizations around the city and metropolitan area. In past years, these partnerships have been recognized at our annual celebrated service luncheon. As things remain challenging on large in-person events, we're doing another one of these panels here as our Access Atlanta series to give exposure to the pro bono organizations that we partner with and let each of you learn more about them, their initiatives, and what they have going on. In that vein, questions are strongly encouraged. You can send those to me in the chat or send them to everyone openly in the chat if you're comfortable doing that, and we'll be sure to address as we go through. So without further ado, I want to welcome everyone, the panel, and turn the virtual podium, so to speak, first over to Rachel Spears, who's the Executive Director of Pro Bono Partnership of Atlanta. She will share a bit about their organization and what they have going on. Rachel?
Thank you, Chris. And I want to thank you and the Atlanta Bar for putting this on and for everything you all do to support our organizations. So if any of you don't know about Pro Bono Partnership of Atlanta, we provide pro bono opportunities that are specifically geared towards transactional attorneys. So the way we do that is we match our volunteer attorneys with nonprofits in need of business legal assistance. That can be reviewing a contract, drafting board policies, advising on an employment issue, registering a trademark, all sorts of things. So all of our clients are nonprofit organizations, 501c3 charities that serve low-income or disadvantaged individuals. That qualifies it as pro bono work, but it's a great way for a transactional attorney to use the skills that you use every day to do pro bono work. I'm gonna share my screen in a moment and show you some of the types of projects that we have, but I put in the chat a link to our website with the current list of volunteer opportunities if you want to go there as well. I'll just tell you a little bit more about our volunteer opportunities. They typically take between 5 to 10, maybe 5 to 15 hours done over the course of a couple of months. We do provide forms. A lot of these projects you'll see we provide forms for. We have staff attorneys who are available as a resource for you. So we really do everything we can to help you in these pro bono engagements. So let me try to share my screen. Hopefully you all can see that. This is our website, the page with the volunteer opportunities. At the top of the page, if the font is big enough, you can see an email for how to reach me at volunteer@pbpatl.org, ask about projects. You can also email me to get signed up for our monthly email list. We send an email out once a month with our volunteer opportunities. No commitment when you sign up, but you'll just signing up for the mailing list. You'll see we ask for some information in that email when you email us. And then we always have the list of the current opportunities. While most of the projects get placed when we send that email out at the beginning of the month, we'll have an ongoing list on our website for you to look at. And you'll see we've got it by practice area. So you can go straight to corporate if you're interested in a corporate project. But as we scroll through, I just wanted to point out a few things to you. We've got a contracts project for a CASA. You're all probably familiar with CASA organizations. A lot of our clients are CASAs. They just need an independent contractor agreement. You'll see PBPA has a form for this, and you'll see we say that it's an immediate need. That just means that this is a project that needs to be turned to quickly, whereas most of our projects are pretty loose on the timing. This is one that they need it soon. So that's generally a good idea as you look through these to look for, if it says immediate need, you know there's a little bit of a rush. I'll point out the second one, Alpha, we're still looking for a volunteer for you. I'm delighted that I think every organization on this call is a client of Pro Bono Partnership of Atlanta, and I love working with our colleagues in that way. Corporate, this is usually drafting board policies, drafting financial policies. You'll see that we have forms for most of these. I'll just point out that for every client, we name the client and we also give their mission statement. So I have some volunteers that are really attracted to a project because of the mission of the organization, because they have a personal connection, but some just pick it up because the work is exactly what they're looking for. I'll point out that we have a confidential project here where they're looking for help with a dissolution, and that's an immediate need project we're really trying to find a place for. And then revising bylaws is a pretty common one that we have. We've got, well, most of our projects fall under contracts, corporate, and employment, and to a lesser extent, intellectual property. We've got all sorts of things. So you see, we've got employee benefits. You'll see on the list, we've got healthcare, privacy, all sorts of things. Employment is one of our biggest areas, and right now this is probably our greatest area of need. We have our ongoing employment work. It's all employment counsel, it's not litigation, but it's drafting policies, employee handbooks, it's advice on worker classification, whether that's contractors or exempt or non-exempt. It's advice on hiring and firing. And lately, it's a lot of advice around COVID. So vaccine mandates, reopening the workplace, all these issues are huge right now. I had a call this morning where we had a volunteer attorney get on the phone with one of our clients that's instituting a vaccine policy and needed advice. And we had a 30-minute call. He gave some really good advice. He's drafting a policy for them today, and then he's done with the project. That whole project will take a couple of hours, but it has a huge impact on the organization that is really stressed about how to go about this. So you can have a huge impact with just a little bit of time. So you'll see we have a lot of employment projects. I mentioned healthcare. Healthcare is a big need. If we have any healthcare lawyers on the line, or if you know of healthcare lawyers, please let us know of our need for more healthcare volunteers for the organization. While we don't typically do litigation, we do help our clients in resolving disputes, kind of pre-litigation work. So you'll see we have 2 issues right now where they need help resolving disputes. This is a great way to have a really big impact on an organization that's trying to sort something out without it going to litigation. We do have a real estate project. These are usually kind of lease reviews. And then technology is usually website terms of use and privacy policies. You'll see we have forms for that as well. And finally, workplace safety is not usually a big area for us, but we've got 2 projects right now I have not been able to place. So if you know of any workplace safety lawyers, please send them this link and encourage them to volunteer. So I will stop sharing my screen. So hopefully that gives you a flavor about what we do at Pro Bono Partnership of Atlanta. We had over 700 attorneys volunteer with us last year. We helped nonprofits with over 1,000 legal matters, and we're going to need more volunteers this year. It just continues to increase. So I really appreciate it if y'all would both check it out, see if you're interested in volunteering, but if not, share it with your colleagues who might be more transactional, who might be interested in these projects. But I want to thank you all for your time today and encourage you, if it's not with us, find somebody. There's wonderful organizations, find somebody to get involved with. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rachel. I find it very interesting, all the projects that you have going on, the wide diversity of the topics and the opportunities. There's truly something for everyone. And one point that I think you highlighted well is that many of the other organizations here today as well partner with you on placing projects and collaboration. So I think that's really something unique that we have through the pro bono community here in Atlanta. All right, I will turn it over now to Meredith Regans, who is joining us as Executive Director of Georgia Lawyers for the Arts and also Georgia Patents. Meredith, take it away.
Thanks, Chris. And it's good to see my fellow colleagues in the nonprofit and the legal nonprofit world. Thanks, Chris, for organizing this, and of course to the Atlanta Bar. I'm very involved in the IP section, so I have a firsthand understanding of the value that the Atlanta Bar brings to our legal community here in the city. As Chris said, I am the Executive Director of Georgia Lawyers for the Arts, and he also mentioned Georgia Patents, and I'll go into that. But GLA is kind of the overall nonprofit organization. What we do is pretty simple. We help artists and arts organizations with their legal issues. We've been around for, I think now 46 years, which is pretty amazing. We were founded by two very young associates at Austin and Bird who, when they were second or third years, their partner who they were working for came to them and said, "We don't have a volunteer lawyer for the arts organization in our state, and I want y'all to create one." And so on top of all of their other legal obligations, they created GLA, which still obviously exists. I have lunch every year with Ben White, who is one of the co-founders. The other unfortunately is deceased, and he still shakes his head and says he can't believe that we're still in existence. I don't think he's talking about because I'm the leader of the organization. I think just in general terms, but maybe that's a something that is amazing too. But we, like I said, we help artists and arts organizations with their legal issues. And with artists, I think most people think, well, it's going to be all intellectual property. And so maybe I don't have a background in that. Well, that's really, there are a number of cases, probably more copyright than trademark law, but we actually, the majority of our cases are contracts. So that's either contract review, contract drafting, certainly some negotiations. And so even if you don't have an IP background, there is a high probability that you'll be able to take one of our cases. And it just depends. I mean, and we also have litigation cases. So if you're at a firm that takes, that will do pro bono litigation cases, not every firm can handle those, because any of you who are litigators, you know that you can go down a rabbit hole pretty quickly with litigation. And so not every firm is able to support litigation matters, but we have some really interesting litigation matters too, whether it can be something pretty simple like a lease that an artist enters into. And that's an example that happened over the past year. The landlord, or actually a couple years ago, kicked her out, and we were able to get her money back. We've had copyright infringement matters where literally a photographer, he's a photographer who, I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to the Decatur Beer Festival, but he was up on top of the buildings in the Decatur Square, took a photograph, and a local brewing company put it on the bottom of a 12-pack. And I've never seen such an egregious infringement on copyright. It is the most like open and shut case I've ever seen. And he just wanted a 12-pack of beer. I was like, no, hang on, we're gonna get you a lawyer, and I think we're gonna be. I mean, he seriously was like, don't just give me a 12-pack of beer, we'll call it a day. And I was like, no, we're gonna get you some money, and he's entered into a licensing agreement with the beer company, and the company, I promise you, all of you would know, it's pretty surprising that they would do this. We draft wills for our clients. If we can find a lawyer for these guys, we'll do whatever we can. We had a client come to us who needed help with a divorce and a child custody, and we were able to find a lawyer for our clients. So if they're an artist, and we also, the one thing I'll note about that, we define artist very broadly. A culinary artist, an artist who you would normally think of, a performing artist, so musicians, folks like men and women who are in the ballet, the theater, also fine artists, graphic designers, graphic artists, as I said, culinary artists, brewmasters, we consider those folks. That there's a science and an art to that, but we are very broad, and I think we're able to be that broad in our definition of artists because we have such great support from the lawyers in our state, and most of whom, frankly, are in Atlanta. But we wouldn't be able to do the work we do without our volunteer lawyers. Our staff takes some of our matters, but we just don't have the bandwidth. So we're extremely reliant on volunteers. For the art organizations, we assist arts organizations that have a budget of less than $1 million. Frankly, that's pretty much every arts organization in our state, except for the ones at the Woodruff Art Center. So the High doesn't qualify. The Alliance won't, the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, the Atlanta Ballet won't. So some of the kind of the huge arts organizations that you would think of, their budgets are over $1 million, but that's the vast minority. And similar to what Rachel was talking about, these are nonprofits, and so they have a vast number of legal issues, whether it's with employment, with their boards, with lease agreements. I mean, they're corporations, so you can think of any type. I mean, there's so many different types of legal issues that they have that certainly aren't just intellectual property related. Finally, one of the programs that we run is called Georgia Patents, and Chris has been intimately involved in both the formation of this program and also the implementation of it. We partnered with in 2015, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office to start a patents program where low-income inventors, we match them up with a patent prosecution lawyer like what Chris does for a living, and we file patent applications, and it's just been a phenomenally successful program for our organization. I think in a way that Chris and I and those others of us who helped start this program never envisioned. Unlike the art side of what we do, this really does take a unique skill set. You have to be a member of the patent bar, which means you have to have had a science background in college. So for example, I can't be a patent prosecution lawyer because I was a liberal arts major. But if there are any of you who are science majors or more specifically members of the patent bar who are on this call, I mean, it is a very small subset of lawyers who are patent lawyers. So we have to treat them very well because we need them a lot more than they need us. But if there are those of you who are patent prosecution lawyers, please get in touch with me because we are really slammed on the patent side. That's about it for me. It's an organization. GLA is an organization I'm really proud of. And I can say that about all of these organizations. We all do great work. I'm so proud of all of the the collaboration that we have in the non-legal nonprofit community, and each of these organizations just does outstanding work in our state and really makes a difference. So Chris, thanks for getting this panel organized, and thanks for including GLA.
Yeah, absolutely, Meredith, and thank you for sharing all those opportunities. Lots of available options there depending on folks' different backgrounds. I would be remiss to not mention one unique thing that I believe your organization does is your upcoming gala, where last year I had the privilege of meeting one of the artists who was there, and the gala is set up to showcase and raise proceeds from artistic works that many of the clients of GLA have done themselves. So it really gives exposure to the artists themselves. And I think that's fantastic too. I'm going to move along here. In the interest of time, we still have a lot of panelists here that I want to hear from. So next up is Michael Waller from Georgia Appleseed. Michael, will you share a bit about your organization and what you have going on?
Absolutely. So Georgia Appleseed is a nonprofit law center. We do law and policy reform, and we do that by engaging the community, talking with folks. And what we're trying to do ultimately, our mission is to make Georgia a better place for Georgia's children. Every child in Georgia has a bright future to look forward to. But I want to start by echoing what Chris and Meredith said. This is an amazing group of organizations. And I just want to say, I haven't spent all of my career in Georgia, but we have a remarkable group of organizations and people working in the organizations, and the opportunity to do interesting, great work that makes a real difference, a tangible one that you can see. It's just extraordinary here. So I encourage all y'all to, you're already here, so I'm preaching in some sense to the choir, but get engaged. It's also fun. We do some really interesting, fun work. Sometimes it's hard because the issues are hard. But it's good work. So thanks Chris, for organizing this. So like I said, we're focused on child welfare, and we do that in a couple of ways. We have a few priority populations too that we focus on. So when we do our work, we hold up first Black and brown kids, LGBTQ plus kids, kids with disabilities, kids experiencing poverty, and children in foster care. Those are special populations for us, and what we're trying to do is focus on the systems, particularly education, housing, and foster care systems that impact these child's lives, and work towards systemic reform. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our priorities, but first, it's helpful to think a little bit about, tell you a little bit about our process. We approach everything in kind of a three-tiered approach. Again, because I'm going to talk to you about some direct services opportunities, but our goal always is to change the system, to change the policies themselves, to make this a better place for these kids. So we have typically a three-tiered approach. Whatever project we're doing, whether it's around housing or school discipline reform, ending the school to prison pipeline, or supporting kids in foster care, there's going to be some component of it where we're in direct contact with the most impacted people. Either that's because we're offering direct representation for children in foster care facing long-term suspension or expulsion, or we're training families on how to advocate for themselves for stable, healthy housing, or we're working with foster parents, or working with grandparents on how to best advocate for their kids in school and get the services and support they need. There's going to be that component. So we develop resources for those populations, those folks, and we use pro bono support for that to develop those resources. Then we typically work in a community level, so we're working with communities to help them build collaborations where they can start looking at their county or looking at their school district and say, how can we make change here? And so we support those efforts. And then we work at the statewide level. So think about the legislature, trying to change the laws, trying to change the way agencies do business, that sort of thing. Pro bono is just our business model. That's how we get stuff done. So whether if it's changing a law, rewriting the juvenile justice code, representing a kid who's about to get expelled, it's through pro bono support. So there's a ton of different opportunities for folks who are interested in any of our major issues. And those right now, there's three of them. The one is ending the school to prison pipeline. So that's keeping kids in class and out of the criminal justice system. And there's all kinds of policy issues in there, all kinds that where we need support. The second is getting kids that with learning and behavior challenges the supports they need to stay in school and succeed. And again, that's about getting the state and our school districts to invest in these kids, make the changes that are necessary to make sure they get the supports they need. And then this is just basic human rights stuff. people need access to stable, healthy housing. It's not just about affordable housing. It's about what is the housing they're in? Is it safe? Can kids actually succeed? Can they grow? Can they thrive in that environment? Is it stable? And again, there's just a lot of policy questions here. Our state just does not do that. And Cole here with ABLF can tell you all about that. They just don't do it. And so as a result, our kids are left on their own in a sense, where they just don't have this stable foundation to build on. That pushes kids into all kinds of terrible situations, including into foster care, which is the other main area where we're looking to make reforms. So how do we work with you guys? How do you guys help what we're trying to do? How do we work together? So our pro bono volunteers work on all these issues, and sometimes it's research. Sometimes it's doing the thing that you do best already. If that's what you like to do, it's doing research and helping us with drafting policy memos, drafting legislation, those sorts of things. Sometimes it's going with us to meetings or actually staffing one of our working groups where you're there week after week or month after month developing relationships with the different policymakers and experts and directly impacted folks, and you're helping craft legislation. And then sometimes it's directly representing kids. Like, we actually need folks to go into tribunals and schools and represent these children and be champions for them. And sometimes, and this is something I'm really passionate about, it's doing the research to help us create our resources for parents and for case managers. And that's really hard because we need smart people who will do the background research and then help us craft accessible resources and documents and train on those so that everybody in the state knows how to advocate for children. So if any of that stuff sounds interesting, please reach out to me. And I'll put my email address down there, and I'm sure Chris is sending that out too. And I'll put my email address and our new legal and policy director email address as well. And hopefully we'll hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Definitely a lot of great initiatives there. And the focus on children is obviously an important population to be on everyone's radar now and always generally. I think it's a good segue as well. I had Sarah Babcock, the Deputy Director of TIP, up next. Sarah, you want to share some of your efforts on truancy intervention and other initiatives that your organization has going on?
Yes, great. And thanks, Chris, for having us, and for the Atlanta Bar for hosting this again and giving us and all of the other great organizations here an opportunity to speak about our work. So as Chris said, my name is Sarah Babcock. I'm the Deputy Director of the Truancy Intervention Project, or TIP. TIP partners with Atlanta Public Schools, Fulton County Schools, and the Fulton County Juvenile Court to help students who are struggling with regular school attendance. And so we work in schools to promote good attendance habits and positive school climate around attendance. And then importantly, we also pair trained volunteers with children and families when the students' school absences have risen to the level of potential or actual court involvement. And so for elementary school kids, that's usually around 5 to 7 unexcused absences. For middle and high school, it's usually around 10 unexcused absences or more. And just for reference, and maybe as information to those of you who are parents, 10 unexcused absences is the threshold for truancy in our state. So at that point, child is deemed to be in violation of the school compulsory attendance law. So our volunteers work by getting to build some rapport and getting to develop a relationship with the child and the family in order to identify the underlying causes of the students' absences. Kids aren't missing school just because, right? Children missing school is a behavior, and that behavior is a communication to the rest of us that something is amiss. So the volunteers figure out what that something is, and then they work with the family and TIP staff and school or court personnel to determine what interventions need to be put into place, what resources need to be identified and provided to the family, and then help get all of that in place so that the child can get back on track with regular school attendance. Why does regular school attendance matter? All of you on this call probably graduated from high school and graduated from college and graduated from law school, and maybe you even have additional degrees, so you probably highly value education, and you know that your education and you being in school and attending school regularly was something that allowed you to read on grade level, have good achievement, graduate from high school, and go on to have a life that was choice filled, right, and choice driven, as opposed to determined by your circumstances or your lack of education. And regular school attendance is a prerequisite to all of those things. We know that on the flip side, students who are missing too much school, particularly middle and high school students who are not attending school regularly, usually will end up involved in the juvenile justice system or the justice system itself as adults. And so in that way, we really view the work that we do as at the very beginning of the school to prison pipeline, getting kids diverted off of that track, back in school, able to graduate from high school, and hopefully go on to that choice-filled life. So we have opportunities for both attorney and non-attorney volunteers. Like you have already heard, and I'm sure we'll continue to hear from folks on this call, our need for volunteers right now is greater than ever. Due to the pandemic, a lot of Metro Atlanta school students spent up to 18 months not going to in-person school. So that meant 18 months of students and their families falling out of all of the routines and habits that are necessary to have regular school attendance. I was talking with our early intervention coordinator this morning. She told me that one of our partner schools is reporting that 25% of their student body has already missed 5 or more days of school. And we're in mid-September, right? So it's really, the need is really out there. We had anticipated that falling out of those routines was going to mean that the need was going to be great. And we unfortunately are seeing that come to fruition. So as I said, we have opportunities for both attorney and non-attorney volunteers. I'm going to go ahead and drop our link in the chat for folks if you're interested. And I will just say, you know, on behalf of all of us who are in the public interest community and doing this work, we know that all the pro bono attorneys and volunteers out there are tired. It's been a really exhausting 18 months. It's been a slog. The fatigue is real. We get that. Our clients are really, really tired too, and they really, really need help. And so I hope that on behalf of Tip and everybody else on this call today, that you will consider finding something that you're passionate about and a way to help, because we really need it, and the clients really, really need the assistance. It's been a long road for them as well. On a happy note, I'll say that TIP is celebrating its 30th anniversary in mid-October. So we'll be doing a virtual celebration the week of October 18. So follow us on social media so you can get more information about that. And I'll leave it there. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Sarah. Very exciting. 30 years. It's a huge milestone. I'll be following and looking for activities that you guys will be doing. And great reminder too, I just wanted to reiterate and echo, I read a piece a few weeks ago that, you know, the challenges for many families, those with children, younger children in particular, are going to be just as difficult now as they were 18 months ago when the first transition to work from home happened. And now, you know, having found new routines, it's going to be a whole nother cycle of change. So that's important to realize, and we're thankful for the work that you and your organization are doing. And hopefully others on here today and those listening to the recording will reach out and volunteer. All right, next up we have Alpa Amin from GAIN. Alpa, would you like to take it away and share some of the initiatives and activities that you have going on?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. Little known fact that GAIN was actually started as an incubator program of the Atlanta Bar Association. So it always feels like a homecoming when I'm asked to speak to this group. I'm really grateful for this opportunity because, as everyone has said, there are just so many needs in our community right now. And so all of our organizations are actively looking for support, and opportunities like this do allow us to share a bit about what we're seeing on the ground. And that's what I hope to talk to you more about today with respect to GAIN. So GAIN, the factor that differentiates us, I think, from some of my panelists is the work that we do. We are primarily an immigration Immigration Legal Services Agency. So we provide all of our work free of charge, and we do it through a dual approach. We enlist the help of pro bono volunteers, and we have staff attorneys who provide that support in-house. Our volunteer program is very similar to what you're hearing from our partners. We are recruiting, training, and mentoring volunteers who want to help immigrations navigate the immigration process. There is no prior immigration experience required. All of the training and materials you will receive from us is what you will need to successfully represent a client in their case. There are opportunities for both transactional attorneys, litigators, legal support staff, and also translators and interpreters who want to assist cases in some capacity. We also go above and beyond just the placement of the case by providing the technical assistance and application review. I know immigration can be a scary area of the law. The consequences are great, and you are dealing directly with people's lives. And so that's why we take our role seriously in that capacity. We are there with you when the case is placed. We are there with you when questions come up from your client. We will review all of your forms and applications and really be there with you throughout the entire process. What we also know is that as attorneys, we need to be focused on the legal work. And we recognize also that our clients don't come to us with just immigration needs. They need to figure out where they're going to live, how they're going to provide for their families, how they're going to feed them. And so we have navigators on staff who provide the needs assessments needed for each of the clients that we work with. They screen them, they identify what their basic needs are, they connect them to resources in the community, and that allows you as a volunteer attorney to really focus on the legal matter at hand. It's also important to note that so much of what we do at GAIN is informed by our clients and their needs. Our clients come from over 118 countries around the world. In our asylum program, they are journalists and activists, survivors of genocide who can no longer stay in their home country and are seeking refuge here in the United States. And in our victims of violence program, they are survivors of labor and sex trafficking, domestic abuse, and sexual assault. Our clients have been through a lot. And that's another area and way in which that GAIN partners with these wonderful organizations on the panel today. We need each other. We refer cases back and forth to one another, and that's how we're able to do this great work. Our most recent project and initiative right now is something known as Project Ally. It's about 1 month in the making. We launched this project in response to the crisis in Afghanistan. And let me be clear, the crisis is not just in Afghanistan, it's affecting families here in Georgia. GAIN started receiving calls somewhere around August 20th from family members here who have loved ones abroad in Afghanistan. They were separated because those family members weren't able to board evacuation flights, and they needed to find an avenue for reunification. What GAIN does well is lean on our partners in the community. We do have the immigration expertise, and so we launched a hotline that allowed us to field calls from people who needed immigration support. What we found was that in the first week, there were 150 calls for help. These were people who worked with the US military, worked with Afghan forces, and again, have family members here in the United States. What we've started to do now is to prepare humanitarian parole applications. This is a limited scope opportunity to provide representation, again, in response to the Afghan crisis. We are actively screening those cases, placing them with volunteers in the legal community, and GAIN is using our own resources and the expertise of our local private immigration attorneys to screen, review, and prepare those applications for filing. So this is a way for volunteers to actively engage with us. It is in response to an issue that you are hearing a lot about in the news. And let me just be clear that we hear a lot about the refugees who are already making their way to the United States with the help of the US government, but there are so many others who need the support. So if anybody is interested in learning more about Project Ally, how you can get involved. I will drop a link to our website in the chat. I will also include my personal email address. If you're interested in learning about any of the types of cases that we work on at GAIN, I'd be happy to answer your questions and talk further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alpha. It's definitely inspiring to hear the real-time current event related project that you guys are taking the lead on and organizing. If anyone has more questions, feel free to reach out to me or Alpha, and we'll get you in touch with the right folks. Definitely nice to hear that these folks are being helped by our local organizations. I'm going to turn it now to Carrie King with Atlanta Legal Aid, and she can share a bit about projects, activities, initiatives that are going on there.
Great, thanks, Chris. Hi to everybody. I'm happy to be here as always with all of my colleagues who do all of this really good work. As other people have said, if you volunteer with any of us, we're all happy about that because there are always more people in this community who need help. So we're happy to have your help. So Atlanta Legal Aid, I think all of you are probably familiar with it. I recognize a lot of your names. We've been in the community since the 1920s. And since 2014, we've really done a bigger push toward incorporating pro bono projects. I'm going to show our pro bono website. This is it. You can create an account by clicking join. I just approve people, and then you can take cases from the website and I get a notification about it, or you don't need to log in to check it out. You do need to have an account to see our library, which is useful for providing a lot of forms, etc., for helping on our projects. You can check out our cases, which includes, so these are current live cases. I'm about to add another one. We've got right now a fair amount of estate planning and some simple family law cases. I'm also about to add one about student loans if you're interested in that. We've got some projects, which sometimes I don't put these individual cases under the cases tab because we've got ongoing projects for these different ones. So we've got 17. You can narrow it down by certain project types, if there are particular groups you want to work with, if there are particular skills or in particular counties. So right now we've got 17 that are live. We have some that since the pandemic aren't as active right now, but these are still active projects. This website research project is particularly useful for law students, but we've got a lot going on usually. I also am always happy to speak with people about what they're looking for, and talk through what might be appropriate for you, what you might want to do. You know, sometimes people are interested in doing a little litigation, some simple litigation, and sometimes people just want to focus on something that's not that. And we try to have a lot of different opportunities for you. So I'll just speed it along. That's really what I wanted to highlight. I always encourage people to go there. You can contact me. My email is chking@atlantalegalaid.org. Like I said, I'm always happy to talk to people. If you know people who want to get involved, feel free to connect me with them and I can take it from there. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Very, very useful. I enjoy seeing the shared screen and actually walking me and others through like how to filter down the projects and locate them. I think that's very helpful. Lastly, we have Cole Thaler and Jamie Perez here from AVLF. I'm going to turn it over to each of them to share a little bit about different aspects of projects that they have going on with AVLF and whatever else they want to share with the group as well. Cole, I believe you were going to go first, so I'll turn it to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. AVLF has so many ways for you to volunteer that you get two staff attorneys here to tell you all about the different ways to plug in. I am the co-director of our Safe and Stable Homes project, so I'm going to focus my segment on telling you about ways that you can help tenants. And we actually have a number of tenant-facing programs, but I am specifically going to focus on ways to help tenants facing eviction, because that is the crisis that we're dealing with at this point in time. There was a CDC eviction moratorium in place that many Atlanta area tenants were clinging to as sort of the last and only legal lifeline that was preventing them from losing their homes. But on August 26th, the US Supreme Court struck that down. So the floodgates are now officially open for landlords not only to file eviction cases, but for the courts to hear them, to rule on them, and for marshals to remove tenants from their homes. So now is an all hands on deck time for anyone with a bar card to step up and try to help a tenant keep a roof over their head. So AVLF has tried to adapt our eviction program to make it as easy as possible for attorneys to step in. And I'm going to tell you about 3 ways to help tenants facing eviction in order from most time intensive to least time intensive. So first of all, we have an eviction defense program, which is just full representation. You attend a 2-hour training that we lead, which we can send you the recording if that is easier for you to watch it on your schedule. And then once you've watched that training and gotten the basics of the law, which, by the way, eviction law is not complicated in Georgia, we have you on our list for potential referrals. So we reach out to you as eviction cases come in. We vet them to make sure they are good cases with strong defenses or counterclaims. And then we contact you to see if you can agree to represent that tenant in court. You can represent a tenant in an eviction hearing on Zoom, so you don't even necessarily have to go to the courthouse. So that's one way, and that is, again, the most time intensive. It probably can take somewhere in the ballpark of 15 to 20 hours to represent a tenant in an eviction case. If you don't have that much time, AVLF also runs the Housing Court Assistance Center, which is a walk-in clinic located at the Fulton County Courthouse. So for this, you actually do have to leave your office and go down to the courthouse. The way it works is you sign up for a 3-hour shift through AVLF's website, and I'll put the link in the chat. And tenants who are facing eviction walk in and get advice on how to fill out their answer form. In Fulton County, how you fill out that answer, the stakes are very high, because if you do have a good defense, but you fill out your answer form incorrectly, you will automatically lose. The court will grant a judgment on the pleadings to the landlord. And tenants don't know that. So we have a staff attorney and a paralegal down there to provide advice and information to tenants, and the help of volunteer attorneys is greatly needed to meet that need, because as you can imagine, the volume of the walk-in clinic is spiking. And then finally, if you have even less time than that, our newest initiative to help tenants facing eviction is a phone bank, where volunteer attorneys can just sign up for a 2-hour slot on a time slot on a Tuesday or a Friday. And this is for tenants whose cases, frankly, are not that strong. They don't have great defenses or counterclaims, but they do still need some basic information or advice on what the eviction process looks like. We provide you with materials to help you understand what that tenant needs to know, and then we vet each call that we get and route a number of tenants to this new phone bank. Again, you just sign up for a 2-hour window, do it from your office or your desk at home. So I will end there. We have other ways to help tenants, but in terms of the need, our greatest need right now is helping the many, many people who unfortunately will be facing eviction over the next few months in Fulton County. I'll leave it there.
Hi, and I will take over. My name is Jamie Perez. I am the director of AVLF Safe and Stable Families Project. So we primarily serve survivors of intimate partner abuse in a variety of ways. So one of the main ways is we train attorneys to represent them in their protective order hearings against their abusers. And that operates through the Safe Families Office, where the courthouse in Fulton County refers survivors that identify themselves as having an intimate relationship with the other party. As the person they're filing against, they get referred to us. This is all virtually right now. So it's fully functional, just via Zoom. And we help our attorneys navigate that whole Zoom hearing process. We also go out in the community through our Standing with Survivors mobile advocacy program and meet with survivors who maybe don't want to file for a protective order, or maybe they do, but they don't know how to navigate it. So we meet them where they are. We go out and identify people that our community partners have referred to us and work with them for other resources. And it's not necessarily always through the legal system. We have a family law program where those who have identified as a survivor of intimate partner abuse, if they need a custody modification, a divorce, child support enforced, things like that, we have family law attorneys volunteer for that program. That is the one program where we require experience. So that has to be our primary practice area to be able to volunteer in that aspect. And then the rest of them we provide trainings for. We also have a guardian ad litem program where we work directly with the court. So judges put in requests to us for people to represent the best interests of children on a pro bono basis for families who can't afford to pay a guardian. And that also involves a training. But for representing people in TPOs and guardian ad litem, you do not have to have experience in that area. Our training covers everything you need. TPO cases take approximately 10 hours, and that's including court time. Guardian ad litem cases can take up to 25, sometimes more, and those are lengthier over a larger period of time. Those can last 6 to 12 months typically, whereas TPOs, with the minute you get in, you're probably out a week later. We have our intimate partner abuse trainings monthly online, and our guardian ad litem trainings are twice a year, with the next one coming up in October. I'm just going to share this screen really quickly to show you our website. I believe you're all seeing the training one. And so you can see here, we have a virtual training. We had one this morning for TPOs. We have webinars that are related to serving our survivors. So this is one about serving survivors with disabilities. This is one about serving survivors with incarceration histories. And those are just to give our volunteers a broader perspective on who they're helping. But here's where you can go. You can see tenants rights training is here as well for Cole and Ayana's programs. So I'm going to put the avlf.org events in the chat. So if you would like to register for any of those, you can do so. And let me just make sure that I covered everything. That is it. Yes. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. That information is also on the website, but I'll also drop it in the chat.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Cole, as well. I find it very refreshing as an attorney myself to hear the different options that you guys offer. And I think that carries through to other organizations where you have opportunities available that don't require a lot of prior experience or expertise in a certain area. And you also have a wide variety of opportunities available based upon a time commitment. So truly there is something out there. If someone does not have a lot of bandwidth or time, there still is the opportunity to volunteer. And I think that's very important for many folks. I will just reiterate and say thank you to all of the speakers that have come today. It truly is a joy to see all of the collaboration and all the initiatives addressing not only ongoing issues and areas of concern, but new areas of concern as they arise, which we've heard some about from multiple organizations today. I thank you all again for joining. I commend you for your volunteer efforts and leadership efforts, and wish everyone a good rest of the day. Thank you all.